The summer sun beat down on Central City's shopping district as Ji-Soo Park walked along the busy street. She looked like any other shopper in her simple blue dress and comfortable shoes. No one would guess she was anything more than a regular person enjoying the warm afternoon. Ji-Soo stopped at a small cafe to buy an iced coffee. As she waited in line, she heard angry voices coming from outside. She turned to look through the large window and saw 3 police officers surrounding a young black woman near the mall's decorative fountain. The woman wore a neat business suit and carried a laptop bag. Her name was Maya Thompson, and she had just finished a successful job interview at the mall's biggest department store. Maya stood straight and calm, even though the officers were getting too close to her. "Show us your receipt again," demanded the tallest officer, Sergeant Han-Bin Lee. His voice was loud and mean. "Something's not right here." "I've shown you the receipt twice already," Maya said quietly. She kept her hands where the officers could see them. "I bought this suit last week. I have the receipt right here in my bag." Officer Park Jin-ho, the youngest of the 3, grabbed Maya's shopping bag roughly. "Maybe she's hiding something else in here," he said to his partners, dumping the contents onto the ground. Maya's new purchases scattered across the pavement. Ji-Soo's hand tightened around her coffee cup. She pulled out her quantum-encrypted personal device, disguised as a regular phone, and started recording. The device captured everything in perfect detail, including sound and vital signs of everyone involved. "Pick those up," Maya said, her voice shaking slightly. "You have no right to do this." The third officer, Officer Yong-Sun Kang, laughed. "Or what? You going to call someone? Go ahead. Nobody's going to believe you over 3 officers." More people gathered around to watch, but no one stepped forward to help. Some took out their phones to record, while others hurried past, looking away. "Maybe she needs to cool off," Sergeant Lee said with a nasty smile. He nodded to the other officers. "What do you think?" Before Maya could step back, Officers Jin-ho and Young-sun grabbed her arms. They lifted her off her feet as she struggled to break free. "Stop! Let me go!" Maya shouted. "I haven't done anything wrong." The officers swung Maya back and forth 3 times, then threw her into the fountain. Water splashed everywhere as she fell in. Her laptop bag hit the water, and her suit was completely soaked. The officers laughed as Maya sat in the shallow water, shocked and humiliated. Ji-Soo's device recorded everything. The officers' cruel laughter, Maya's vital signs showing fear and distress, and the exact force they used to throw her. Ji-Soo also noticed something the officers had missed. Maya's job offer letter floating in the fountain, the ink running as the paper got wet. Maya slowly stood up in the fountain, water streaming from her ruined suit. She looked at the officers with quiet dignity, even as tears mixed with the fountain water on her face. "I hope you're proud of yourselves," she said clearly. "Is this why you became police officers?" "Let's go," Sergeant Lee said to his partners, suddenly looking uncomfortable under Maya's steady gaze. "Our work here is done." The 3 officers walked away quickly, leaving Maya standing in the fountain. Ji-Soo stopped recording and walked to the fountain's edge. She took off her light jacket and held it out to Maya. "Here," she said kindly. "Let me help you out of there." Maya looked at her with surprise, then reached out to take Ji-Soo's hand. As she helped Maya from the fountain, Ji-Soo's device silently transmitted the recording to a secure server far beyond Earth's atmosphere. The officers didn't know it yet, but their cruel actions would have consequences bigger than they could imagine. "Thank you," Maya said quietly, wrapping Ji-Soo's jacket around her shoulders. "No," Ji-Soo replied, looking toward the direction the officers had gone. "Thank you for showing such strength. Things will change. I promise you that." Maya couldn't know what Ji-Soo's promise meant, but she felt the truth in those words. As they gathered Maya's scattered belongings, neither woman knew they had just become part of a story that would change not just their city, but humanity's place in the galaxy. After helping Maya get home safely, Ji-Soo walked to her apartment building downtown. From the outside, It looked like any other modern apartment building, but appearances could be misleading, just like Jisoo herself. She placed her hand on the door, and hidden sensors read her unique biological signature. The ordinary-looking lock clicked open. Inside her apartment, Jisoo pressed a hidden panel near her bookshelf. The wall slid aside silently, revealing her real workspace. The room was filled with advanced technology that would amaze even Earth's top scientists. Screens covered the walls, showing news feeds and data from around the world. In the center stood a round table that could project detailed holograms. Jisoo touched a silver disc on her neck. Her human appearance shimmered and faded, revealing her true form. She looked mostly human, but her skin had a slight silver shine, and her eyes glowed with a gentle blue light. She was a Luminarian, one of the most respected races in the Galactic Council. She sat down at the hologram table and pressed her hand on its surface. Computer, begin report for today's incident at Central Shopping District. The air above the table came alive with images. The cruel scene she had witnessed played out in perfect detail. Add this to File Earth 7249. Examples of current law enforcement behavior, she said. Jisoo had been on Earth for 5 years now. The Galactic Council had sent her to study humanity and decide if Earth was ready to join the galactic community. She had seen many wonderful things, acts of kindness, courage, and love. But she had also seen terrible things, like what happened to Maya today. She opened another file on her computer. Images appeared showing her past observations, people helping strangers in need, scientists working to save the environment, and communities coming together after disasters. But there were also darker images: discrimination, abuse of power, and injustice. Computer, connect me to Council headquarters, Jisoo commanded. A screen appeared in the air, showing an elderly Luminarian with white glowing eyes. Observer Park, the elder said. Your emergency signal was activated. What have you discovered? Elder son, I witnessed another serious incident today, Jisoo reported. She played the recording of Maya's harassment. This shows a disturbing pattern in local law enforcement, but it also presents an opportunity. The elder watched the recording carefully. Explain your thoughts, observer. Humanity stands at a crossroads, Jisoo said. They have the potential for great progress, but old prejudices hold them back. I believe this incident could help push them toward positive change. You wish to intervene? Elder son asked. That is unusual for an observer. Jisoo nodded. I do. Not directly, but by ensuring justice is served through their own systems. The young woman, Maya Thompson, showed remarkable dignity and strength. The officers must face consequences for their actions. The elder was quiet for a moment. Your 5 years of observation give weight to your judgment. You may proceed, but carefully. Remember, we cannot force change. They must choose it themselves. I understand, elder. I will use their existing justice system. The evidence I collected will be impossible to ignore. After ending the call, Jisoo stood at her window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Maya was probably still dealing with the pain and humiliation of today's events. The police officers were probably going about their evening, thinking they had gotten away with their cruel actions. Things will change, Jisoo whispered, touching the silver disc that helped her blend in with humans. Sometimes justice needs a little help from the stars. She began preparing her evidence for Earth authorities. Tomorrow, she would start the process that would not only bring justice for Maya, but might also help humanity take its next step toward the stars. Early the next morning, Captain Taewon Kim sat at his desk in the Internal Affairs office, reviewing the complaint that had appeared in his email. The video attached to the report made his coffee go cold as he watched it again and again. The footage was unusually clear, showing every detail of the fountain incident from multiple angles. He reached for his phone and dialed a number. Chief Cho, you need to see this immediately. Within an hour, Police Chief Sunma Cho arrived at his office. Her face remained steady as she watched the video, but her hands tightened on the arms of her chair. "Who sent this?" Chief Cho asked, her voice controlled but angry. "A woman named Ji-Soo Park," Captain Kim replied. "She filed the complaint properly, with all the correct forms. But there's something unusual about this evidence. The quality is unlike anything I've seen before." Chief Cho nodded. "Bring in Sergeant Lee and his officers." Now, in another part of the building, Sergeant Han Bin Lee sat with officers Jin Ho Park and Yong Sun Kang in the break room. They were laughing about yesterday's events when their phones buzzed simultaneously. "Internal affairs," Officer Jin Ho said, looking worried. "What do they want with us?" Sergeant Lee tried to look confident. "Probably nothing. Just stick to the story. We were responding to a suspicious person report. The woman was uncooperative. She fell into the fountain by accident." But when they entered Captain Kim's office, they found not only the captain but also Chief Cho waiting for them. The chief's expression made them stop in their tracks. "Sit down," Chief Cho ordered. Without a word, she played the video on the large screen. The officers watched themselves harass Maya, their faces growing pale as the high-quality footage showed every detail of their actions. The sound was perfect, catching every cruel word and mocking laugh. "Would anyone like to explain this?" Chief Cho asked when the video ended. Sergeant Lee cleared his throat. "Chief, this video must be fake. That's not how it happened at all. The video has already been authenticated by our technical department," Captain Kim said. "They say it's the most detailed footage they've ever analyzed. There are no signs of editing or manipulation." A knock on the door interrupted them. Ji-Soo Park entered the room, carrying a tablet. She looked exactly as she had yesterday, but now she carried herself with quiet authority. "I have more evidence to submit," Ji-Soo said, placing her tablet on the desk, "including readings of vital signs, force measurements, and similar incidents involving these officers over the past 6 months." The officers stared at her in shock. Officer Yong-sun started to speak, but Sergeant Lee kicked his foot under the table. "Ms. Park," Chief Cho said, "how did you gather all this evidence?" "That will be explained in due time," Ji-Soo replied calmly. "For now, please focus on the facts presented. A young woman was humiliated and assaulted by officers sworn to protect and serve. Her property was damaged. Her dignity was attacked. What will you do about it?" Chief Cho looked at the 3 officers, then at Captain Kim. "Suspend them immediately. Take their badges and weapons. A full investigation begins today." "You can't do this," Sergeant Lee protested. "It's our word against some random woman and a video that could be fake." "Actually," Captain Kim said, "Ms. Thompson has just arrived to file her official statement, and we have received calls from 12 witnesses who were present at the scene." The 3 officers slumped in their chairs as they realized their actions had finally caught up with them. Outside the office, Maya Thompson sat waiting to tell her story, her head held high. Justice was beginning to turn its wheels. The police department's largest meeting room was full for the formal hearing. Maya Thompson sat in the front row, wearing a new dark blue suit. Behind her, community leaders and reporters filled every seat. The 3 suspended officers sat at a table facing the review board, their expressions worried. Chief Sun Mi-cho opened the hearing with a serious face. "We are here to review the events of last Tuesday at Central Shopping District. The evidence will show that 3 officers abused their authority and violated multiple department policies." Captain Ta-won Kim presented the video evidence again. On the large screen, everyone watched the cruel incident unfold. Many people in the room gasped when they saw Maya being thrown into the fountain. "The technical department has confirmed this footage is authentic," Captain Kim said. "We also have statements from 12 witnesses and evidence of similar behavior from these officers in the past." Sergeant Lee's lawyer stood up. "We question the source of this evidence. How was such detailed footage captured? Who is this Ji-Soo Park, and what authority does she have to submit evidence?" The room grew quiet as Ji-Soo walked to the front. She wore a simple gray suit, but something about her seemed different today. She carried herself with unusual confidence and authority. "I will answer those questions," Jisoo said. She touched the silver disc on her neck. The air around her shimmered, and gasps filled the room as her true appearance became visible. Her skin glowed with a soft silver light, and her eyes shone bright blue. "My name is Observer Jisoo Park of the Galactic Council," she announced. Her voice was calm, but carried through the stunned silence. "I have spent 5 years on Earth, studying human society to evaluate your readiness for membership in the galactic community." The officer's lawyer sat down heavily. Reporters started taking pictures frantically. Maya leaned forward in her chair, eyes wide with surprise. "The council sent me to observe how humans treat each other," Jisoo continued. "I have seen much good here, kindness, courage, and progress. But I have also seen prejudice, cruelty, and abuse of power, as demonstrated by these officers." She walked to the evidence table and placed her hand on her tablet. A holographic display appeared above it, showing more scenes from her 5 years of observation. "This incident is not isolated," she said. "I have documented numerous similar cases, but I have also seen many humans stand up against injustice. Your society stands at an important moment of choice." Chief Cho found her voice first. "Are you saying that how we handle this case will affect Earth's relationship with other worlds?" "Every society that joins the Galactic Council must show they can face their problems and grow from them," Jisoo explained. "What matters is not that these problems exist, but how you choose to address them." She turned to face the 3 officers. "You had power, and you used it to hurt someone because of how she looked. Your actions showed the worst of human behavior. But today, this room is full of people who want justice. That shows humanity's potential for good." Maya stood up slowly. "All this time, you were watching over us?" she asked Jisoo. "I was watching and learning and hoping," Jisoo replied. "Hoping that when humans saw clear evidence of wrongdoing, they would choose to do what is right." The review board members looked at each other, then at Chief Cho. The case had suddenly become much bigger than a simple disciplinary hearing. Their decision would not just affect 3 officers and 1 woman. It would affect humanity's place in the galaxy. News of Jisoo's revelation spread across the world within hours. Television stations showed the footage of the fountain incident alongside images of the alien observer revealing her true form at the hearing. Outside the police headquarters, crowds gathered to demand change in law enforcement practices. Chief Sun Ma-cho sat in her office, reviewing the final disciplinary decisions. The 3 officers had been dismissed from the force, but she knew that simply firing them was not enough. The entire system needed to change. She looked up as Maya Thompson entered her office. Maya had become a familiar face at headquarters over the past week, speaking with officers and sharing her experience. Despite everything that had happened to her, she remained focused on creating positive change. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Thompson," Chief Cho said, standing to greet her. "I want to discuss how we can improve our department. Your insight would be valuable." Maya sat down across from the chief. "I appreciate that, Chief Cho, but I have to ask, why did it take an alien observer to make people listen? Many others have complained about officer misconduct before." The chief was quiet for a moment. "You're right," she finally said. "We failed to listen. We failed to act. But now we have a chance to make real changes, and I want to do it right." She showed Maya a document on her computer. "This is my proposal for new training programs and accountability measures. Every officer will undergo enhanced ethics training and cultural awareness education. We're installing new body cameras that can't be turned off, and we're creating a civilian oversight committee." As they discussed the proposals, Jisoo Park appeared in the doorway. She still maintained her human appearance in public to avoid causing too much excitement. "Your proposals show promise, Chief Cho," Jisoo said. "The Galactic Council will be interested to see how you implement these changes." The chief stood straighter. "We're not doing this for the Galactic Council. We're doing it because it's right. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect." Jisoo smiled. That understanding is exactly what we hope to see. Over the next few weeks, the changes began. Officers attended new training sessions where Maya and other community members shared their experiences. The dismissed officers' cases became part of the training curriculum, teaching future officers about the consequences of abuse of power. Other police departments across the country started calling Chief Cho, asking about her reform programs. News channels interviewed Maya about her role in the changes. She spoke with dignity and compassion, focusing on how to make things better rather than dwelling on her painful experience. One evening, Chief Cho found an unexpected visitor in her office, Elder Sun from the Galactic Council, accompanied by Jisoo. Your response to this incident has been most interesting, Elder Sun said, his white eyes glowing gently. Instead of trying to hide or minimize the problem, you chose to confront it directly and make meaningful changes. Chief Cho stood proudly. We still have much work to do, but we are committed to doing better. Not because we're being watched, but because it's the right thing to do. The elder nodded approvingly. That attitude, Chief Cho, gives us hope for humanity's future. Continue your work. The galaxy watches with great interest. As the sun set over the city, Maya stood with Jisoo on the police headquarters steps, watching new recruits arrive for their enhanced training program. Each one would learn about what happened at the fountain, and each one would have a chance to be part of the change. The great hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light from 1,000 stars visible through its crystal dome. Representatives from 300 worlds sat in rising tiers, all focused on Jisoo Park as she presented her report on Earth. Honored members of the council, Jisoo began, standing at the center of the hall. My 5 years observing Earth have shown both challenges and promise in human society. The air above her filled with images from her time on Earth. The fountain incident appeared, followed by scenes of the changes it had sparked. The council members watched intently as the story unfolded. Some may see this incident as proof that humans are not ready for membership, Jisoo continued. But I ask you to look deeper. Watch what happened after the truth was revealed. She showed them Chief Cho implementing new training programs, Maya speaking to police recruits, and communities coming together to demand better from their protectors. The images changed faster now, showing similar reforms spreading across Earth. An elder from the crystal world stood up. Observer Park, you revealed yourself to the humans. That goes against our traditional methods. Why did you take such a risk? Because sometimes growth needs a catalyst, Jisoo replied. The humans had the ability to change. They needed to see themselves clearly to make that choice. The representative from the Steel Planet spoke next. His metallic face reflected the starlight. But they only changed because they knew we were watching. How can we trust this is genuine progress? Jisoo smiled and played a recording from her last meeting with Chief Cho. The chief's voice filled the hall. We're not doing this for the Galactic Council. We're doing it because it's right. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Jisoo waited for quiet before continuing. Humans have a saying. The true test of character is what you do when no one is watching. But I would suggest that the truest test is what you do after you've been caught doing wrong. Do you deny, make excuses, or do you accept responsibility and work to do better? She showed them more images, the dismissed officers attending cultural awareness classes on their own time, Maya creating a foundation to help victims of discrimination, and police departments across Earth adopting new training programs. Earth still has many problems to solve, Jisoo acknowledged. But they are willing to face these problems honestly. They are capable of learning, growing, and improving. These are the qualities we value in council members. Elder Sun rose from his central seat. You seem quite convinced of humanity's potential, Observer Park. Yet this incident showed serious flaws in their society. Yes, Jisoo agreed. And their response showed their capacity to address those flaws. No society is perfect, not even among our oldest council members. What matters is the willingness to acknowledge mistakes and work to correct them. The council chambers grew quiet as elder Sun considered her words. Finally, he spoke again. Your report raises interesting questions about our evaluation methods. Perhaps we have been too focused on finding perfect societies, rather than those with the potential for positive growth. Other council members nodded in agreement. The representative from the crystal world stood again. I move that we continue to observe Earth, but with a new perspective. Let us watch not just for their mistakes, but for how they handle those mistakes. As the council members discussed Earth's future, Jisoo thought about Maya, Chief Cho, and all the others working to create positive change back on Earth. They didn't know it yet, but their actions were helping to reshape not just their own society, but the Galactic Council's understanding of social progress. 6 months after the fountain incident, the Central City Police Department looked very different. Chief Sun Lecho stood in the newly created Community Training Center, watching as Maya Thompson led a session with police officers. The room was filled with both veteran officers and new recruits, all listening carefully to Maya's words. Understanding comes from listening to each other, Maya said, standing confident and tall at the front of the room. Each person you meet has their own story, their own struggles, and their own dignity. Your badge gives you power, but how you use that power shows who you really are. Jisoo Park sat in the back of the room, still in her human form, taking notes on her tablet. The changes she saw gave her hope. The new training program had become a model for other cities. Police departments from across the country sent representatives to learn from Chief Cho and Maya. After the class, Chief Cho met with her command staff in the conference room. The walls displayed charts showing their progress. Complaints against officers down by 60%, community trust ratings up, and positive interactions between police and citizens increasing every month. Our next step is to expand the Civilian Oversight Committee, Chief Cho announced. We need more community members involved in our decision-making process. Maya has agreed to chair the committee. One of the captains raised his hand. Some officers are still nervous about all these changes. They worry it makes their job harder. Actually, it makes our job easier, said a voice from the door. Everyone turned to see Officer Min-ho Lee, one of their most experienced patrol officers. When people trust us, they work with us. When they know we respect them, they respect us back. Later that afternoon, Maya visited the mall where the incident had happened. The fountain still sparkled in the sunlight, but now it had a new plaque beside it. The plaque read, "Let this place remind us that change begins with choosing to do what is right." As she read the words, she noticed 3 familiar figures approaching, the former officers who had thrown her into the fountain. But they looked different now. They walked without their former arrogance, and their faces showed shame when they saw her. "Miss Thompson," former Sergeant Hanbin Lee said, his voice quiet. "We came to apologize, not because we have to, but because we need to." Maya listened as each former officer spoke about what they had learned in the past months. They had gone through extensive training about bias and cultural awareness. They had worked with community groups. Most importantly, they had begun to understand the harm their actions had caused. "We can't undo what we did," former Officer Jin-ho Park said, "but we can work to make sure it never happens to anyone else." Maya nodded slowly. "That's all any of us can do. Work to make things better." Jisoo watched this scene from a distance, her heart full of hope. The changes weren't just in policies and procedures. They were happening in people's hearts and minds. Police officers were learning to see beyond their biases. Communities were learning to trust again. And those who had done wrong were learning to acknowledge their mistakes and grow from them. That evening, as the sun set over the city, Chief Cho held a community meeting in the park. Hundreds of people gathered, police officers and civilians, sitting together, talking openly about their hopes and concerns. The barriers between them were slowly coming down, one conversation at a time. 1 year after the fountain incident, Maya Thompson stood at a podium in front of City Hall. Behind her sat Chief Sun Micho, city officials, and Jisoo Park. A large crowd filled the plaza, including news crews from around the world. Today marks the first anniversary of an event that changed not just our city, but our understanding of our place in the universe, Maya began. She wore a blue suit similar to the one that had been ruined in the fountain, but now she wore it as the head of the newly created Commission for Police Reform and Community Relations. The Commission's first annual report lay on the podium before her. Its findings showed remarkable progress. Police complaints down by 80%, community trust at record highs, and other cities adopting their training programs. Change isn't easy, Maya continued. It takes courage to admit mistakes. It takes strength to forgive. And it takes wisdom to learn and grow from difficult experiences. In the audience, the three former officers sat quietly. After their dismissal, they had chosen a surprising path. Instead of fighting their punishment, they had become advocates for police reform. They now traveled to police departments across the country, sharing their story as a warning and a lesson. Former Sergeant Han Bin Lee had started a support group for officers struggling with bias and anger issues. Former Officer Jin Ho Park worked with youth programs, helping build trust between police and young people. And former Officer Yong Sun Kang had become a trainer in the new Cultural Awareness Program. Chief Cho stepped up to the podium next. 1 year ago, we learned we weren't just answering to our community. We were answering to the galaxy. But the changes we've made weren't for the Galactic Council. They were for ourselves, for our children, and for our future. Jisoo rose and approached the podium. The crowd grew quiet as she transformed into her true form, her silver skin glowing in the sunlight. The Galactic Council has reviewed Earth's progress, she announced. Your response to the revelation of our presence, and your willingness to learn and grow from your mistakes, has impressed many council members. Today, I am honored to announce that Earth has been granted provisional membership in the galactic community. The crowd erupted in cheers. Maya and Chief Cho embraced, tears in their eyes. The former officers stood and applauded with everyone else, their faces showing both regret for their past actions and hope for the future. This membership comes with conditions, Jisoo continued when the crowd quieted. Earth must continue its progress toward equality and justice, but we have faith in humanity's potential. You have shown that when confronted with your flaws, you have the courage to change. After the ceremony, Maya stood by the fountain where everything had started. The water sparkled just as it had that day, but everything else had changed. Jisoo joined her there. Did you know? Maya asked. That day, did you know all of this would happen? Jisoo smiled gently. I knew humanity had potential, but you, Maya, you showed more strength and dignity than I could have hoped for. You turned pain into progress. That's why Earth is ready for the stars. They looked up at the evening sky together, where the first stars were becoming visible. Somewhere up there, the Galactic Council was watching, hoping, and believing in humanity's ability to learn, grow, and become better than they had been before. The fountain continued to flow, its waters now a symbol not of humiliation, but of cleansing, renewal, and the endless possibility of positive change.